Alright guys, we had some questions how I do this. So this is where I'm going to call it quits, I believe, on this intake. And I did have a technical issue, which some guys will absolutely love because, they're just like that. I'm going to show you my third cut flows, and then I stuck a 1-inch open spacer on it to see what that would do. And we came up with some real interesting results. Notice, still using pillow foam and packing it in with a wrench because I just can't pack it in tight enough with my fingers. I'm getting old. If it's not packed in just right and you get the slightest amount of leakage, what's that going to do to your flow numbers? All right. The flow bench only calculates mass flow. It doesn't know where it's going, right? It doesn't know what you've got. One port open and 3 ports leaking a little bit. So I decided by my third cut, I said something's up, and I started working on the foam a little bit differently, and all the flows went down. So let's take a look at that. I actually redid the sheet. It still looks like hell, but it's better than it was. Okay. Stock, first cut, second cut, third cut. Now, second cut, we have some real high numbers. Okay. 270 here. Okay. 264, 263, 250. Now, when I did the third cut, I started working the foam a little bit differently. But see, like this port liked it. I got a touch of an increase on there from 252 to 255.4. This one I actually got a little bit of an increase on. Now, I also I reported a bunch of these depending upon the mass flow I was getting through that and whether I could improve it or not without making the port too big. Okay, so this went up a little bit from 258.4 to 261.3. This one went 262.3 to 262.3 to 263.6, which wound up being my highest at that point of all the runners. 263 to 256. That went down considerably. Now, I think that's because I took care of some air leakage more than anything else. Same thing here. 270 to 255. 264 to 257. 263 to 255.5. 259, 257.5. Now, our second cut had a big discrepancy between the CFMs, highest and lowest. Okay, 18.3. I'd like to do better than that, right? So, third cut, and also I changed the way I was packing my foam, down to 8.2 CFM, which is damn good for a dual plane. I don't care what anybody says, okay? So, I did that, and then I said, it'd be interesting to see, because this is probably going to go on a race setup, and plenum volume is really important, way more important than a lot of guys know. Okay? I mean, yeah, the plenum was huge to begin with, right? Add a spacer onto it, and it makes it even bigger. Well, you have to remember it's designed as a dual plane. So as soon as you put a spacer on top of it, it is no longer a dual plane. Think about what I just said. It's really a poorly designed single plane at that point, right? Because now each plenum can see all 4 barrels. That may be good and that may be bad depending upon where you want your torque. So adding a single 1-inch spacer will probably knock 25 foot-pounds off your low end, but it may give you 10 horsepower up on the top is where you want it, depending upon what you're doing, right? You could also step it up to a 2-inch spacer, or more than that. All right, I like a 2-inch spacer on top of a Victor Junior Tall. Right, but I'm also using throttle body injection. Okay, now let's take a look at what happened when we put the spacer on. Number one, we went from 255.4 to 256.1. Touch up. 261.3 to 265. Decent jump. 5, 263.6, 262.7. Small down. 256.1 to 255.1. 255.9 to 260. I liked it a little bit. 257.1 to 256.7. Almost the same. Take a look at number 6. 255.5 to 246. That's a huge step backwards, right? And number 8 went from 257.5 to 265. That really liked it. Remember, that was stock was probably my worst board. But it also had a ton of work done to it to improve that. So work. As soon as you put a spacer on it, it really makes a big difference. Now let's take all of our flows between high and low and do a little quick math on them. We went from without a spacer to 8.2 CFM between the runners to 19.3. Very interesting where the air goes once you give it a chance, right? Because it's pulling out of a different spot. It's pulling out of a bigger plenum at this point, right? So it sees more of the bench vacuum, I would say. Or it's not vacuum at that point, it's pressure. Because I'm exhausting, right? I'm exhausting up into it and then out, right? Out of port. So I literally have to make sure my foam isn't in the way and so forth. Oh, the reason I left this port open, I wanted to show you guys this. I wrote 260 here, but watch the manometer on this. I'm just going to throw my hearing protection on and show you guys this. Pretty interesting, right, guys? Alrighty. Well, in any case, if you take a look at my flows from third cut, very even, right? 8.2 and 255 CFM per runner approximately is good for a pretty serious amount of power. So, and that's a fully divided plenum, so you're getting the full benefit of a dual plane. And the benefit of a dual plane is called second degree freedom. Take a look at it. It really gives you a kick in the pants as far as low and mid-range torque. So much so that very often dual planes will be quicker down the drag strip if they're geared right. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.